Said hit the floor, asshole, or I'm gonna blow your fucking head off!
Your store's got such nice, clean, filtered fresh air, and it just takes a couple of scumbags to stink it up.
The movie opens with a man named Harley Davidson journeying from Texas to Burbank, California. During his trip, he stops at a gas station and notices two men robbing the place. Rather than fleeing, Harley remains calm and tells the clerk who is being held at gunpoint that he's simply there to buy gas. One of the robbers aims a gun at Harley and orders him to lie face down on the floor. But Harley remains calm. When the robber lowers his guard, Harley swiftly takes him down. The second robber, armed with a knife, tries to threaten Harley, but Harley stays unfazed and quickly defeats him as well. Grateful, the store clerk lets Harley fill his gas tank for free as a thank you. Meanwhile, a man named Robert Lee Edison, better known as the Marlboro Man, is playing pool with a large man called Big Indian. They place a bet, and Marlboro wins with his impressive skills. But Big Indian refuses to accept the defeat and tells his men to attack Marlboro. Just then, Harley arrives and mocks Big Indian and his crew for ganging up on Marlboro. Furious, Big Indian challenges Marlboro to a one-on-one fight. But he plays dirty, pulling a knife and injuring Marlboro. He traps Marlboro against the wall, but Marlboro quickly retaliates by hurling a pool ball at him. And just like that, the legendary duo begins their wild adventure, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. It turns out, Marlboro and Harley are longtime friends who haven't seen each other in 2 years because Harley abruptly left town without saying goodbye. When Harley returns, he realizes many things have changed, including plans to build a futuristic new airport. That night, Harley and Marlboro head to their favorite hangout spot, the Rock and Roll Bar and Grill. Before entering the bar, Harley gives Marlboro a pistol as a birthday gift. Marlboro immediately uses it to shoot his own beat-up motorcycle. Inside the bar, Harley meets Giles, the owner and an old friend. Giles is glad to see Harley again, but when Harley asks about the two well-dressed men he saw Giles speaking with earlier, Giles warns him to stay out of things that don't concern him. Right after that, Harley spots a woman singing on stage. It's Lulu, his ex-girlfriend. Knowing Harley still has feelings for her, Marlboro warns him that Lulu is now married to someone else. Later, Harley and Marlboro move to a quiet corner of the bar, where a crowd has gathered to watch an arm wrestling match. A big guy named Jack Daniels looks irritated when he notices Harley. Jimmy, Jack's friend, asks why Harley showed up, but Harley says he's only visiting. It turns out Jack and Jimmy were once friends with Harley, but now Jack no longer considers him one and challenges him to a fight. As always, Harley stays fearless and accepts the challenge. Even though Jack is much bigger, Harley moves quickly and fights with force. He even lifts Jack off the ground and slams him down. But Jack quickly recovers and fights back even harder, eventually defeating Harley. He then tosses Harley out the window and warns him to stay away from Lulu, saying she's his wife now, and he loves her deeply. Harley calmly responds that he ended things with Lulu long ago because he knew she truly loved Jack. After hearing that, Jack forgives him, and the two become friends again. However, their fight causes damage to the bar, and Jimmy loses a lot of money from failed bets. Meanwhile, Giles is upset because they now have to spend more money repairing the bar, which is already facing financial trouble. The bar is in serious danger. The Great Trust Bank is threatening to take it over unless Giles pays $2.5 million to renew the lease within 21 days. Giles explains that the bank wants to demolish the bar and build a skyscraper. After hearing this, Harley comes up with a plan to rob the bank and use the money to cover the lease. At first, Marlboro refuses, but Harley tells him the bar feels like home, a place he can always return to, so he's willing to do whatever it takes to save it. Since he can't pull it off alone, Harley asks Marlboro and a few others for help. After thinking it over, Marlboro and a bar worker named Josie agree to join him because they're grateful to Giles. He supported them when no one else did. To save their special place, Harley, Marlboro, Jimmy, and Josie planned to rob an armored bank truck to get the money for the lease. At first, the heist goes smoothly. They quickly overpower the two guards escorting the truck, who offer little resistance. However, one of the guards manages to hit the alarm button, alerting the bank about the robbery. In response, the bank sends 5 heavily armed men wearing bulletproof vests to confront Harley and his crew. A fierce gunfight breaks out. Harley and his friends kept firing, but the 5 attackers kept closing in, not even caring about the 2 guards still alive. Right in the middle of the chaos, Jack showed up out of nowhere and blew up his own motorcycle to hit the gunman. He yelled for everyone to escape through the sewer tunnel, where Jimmy was already waiting underground with a getaway car. When they finally got out and checked the bags, they were shocked the truck hadn't been carrying any cash at all. Instead of cash, the truck was transporting a dangerous experimental drug called Crystal Dream, which was now spreading through the city streets. Harley was furious and demanded to know why the bank was using its trucks to move drugs. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the bank's head of security, Alexander, received a direct order from CEO Chance Wilder, recover the drugs and eliminate the thieves. Wilder was enraged and believed the robbers had to be skilled professionals, not amateurs, since they destroyed 2 of the bank's vehicles and escaped so easily. That night, Marlboro borrowed Harley's motorcycle and raced through the city streets to clear his mind. While riding, he deliberately provoked a patrolling cop, triggering a tense high-speed chase. In the end, the officer caught him, but instead of arresting him, she brought him to her place. It turned out she was Virginia Slim, Marlboro's ex-girlfriend. They spent the night together and rekindled their relationship, even though Virginia was engaged to someone else and soon to be married. She still had feelings for Marlboro, but she wanted a stable, long-term relationship, something Marlboro wasn't ready for. He didn't want marriage or to settle down. The next morning, Virginia was caught off guard when she saw Harley cooking breakfast in the kitchen. He told her the meal was for Marlboro, then invited her to join him for breakfast at a nearby diner. During their conversation, Virginia explained that Crystal Dream was a dangerously addictive drug. It causes lasting damage to the nervous system, induces hallucinations when users get high, and ultimately leads to death. After breakfast, Harley drove Virginia home. Just before going inside, she admitted she was a little jealous of the carefree life he and Marlboro lived. Meanwhile, still upset about Virginia's upcoming wedding, Marlboro impulsively stole her fiancé's motorcycle. Later, Harley and Marlboro made their way to the bank's headquarters to confront Wilder directly. However, Wilder had already anticipated their visit and called them first. Harley demanded $2.5 million in return for the stolen drugs. Wilder agreed and set up a meeting that night at an old airplane graveyard. That evening, Alexander arrived with the money, and the exchange went off without a hitch. Harley and his friends returned to the bar and celebrated in the back room, believing their mission had been a success. But Marlboro started to feel uneasy. Everything had gone a little too smoothly. He warned the group to get out of town immediately. His instincts were soon proven right. Alexander and his heavily armed team arrived at the bar. Harley and the others watched in silence from behind a one-way mirror, as Giles tried to convince Alexander that the place was empty. Alexander pretended to leave, but suddenly turned around and shot Giles. Then he and his team opened fire on the mirrored wall, triggering a brutal shootout. Harley and his friends fought back, but they were quickly outgunned by the intense gunfire. Harley and Marlboro managed to escape by jumping out the window. Tragically, all their friends were killed in the fight. Harley and Marlboro rushed to the nearest airport and hid inside the luggage compartment of a plane, with Alexander and his crew still in pursuit. A nearby airport worker nearly spotted them, but Harley quickly covered her mouth to keep her silent. Meanwhile, Alexander kept searching the area and even killed an airport employee who told him to leave. Harley and Marlboro eventually made it to Las Vegas and checked into a hotel. There, Harley scolded Marlboro for constantly complaining, despite the fact they had just survived a deadly attack. Suddenly, Marlboro punched him, angry that Harley showed no remorse for their fallen friends. Harley tried to explain that their friends had known the risks, and there was no use in dwelling on it now. However, Harley apologized and admitted he had been wrong. He asked Marlboro to stay and face everything with him. While Marlboro stepped outside to cool off, Harley spotted a coin on the floor glowing red in a strange way. Meanwhile, in the hotel lobby, Marlboro called Virginia and noticed Alexander and his crew arriving. He quickly rushed back to warn Harley to get out right away. They ran up to the hotel rooftop but were quickly cornered. With no other option, they leapt into the swimming pool below to make their escape. While on the run, Harley realized they were being tracked by a tiny device hidden inside the glowing coin, something Alexander had given him earlier. After getting rid of the tracker, they jumped onto a moving freight train heading east. During the trip, Marlboro said they owed it to their fallen friends to return to Los Angeles and finish what they had started. He felt it was the right thing to do. Harley, however, disagreed. He believed the most important thing was that they had survived, and all he wanted now was to move on with his life. That night, Marlboro went to visit Virginia at her home even though her fiancé nearly threw him out. Realizing he had lost his chance with her, Marlboro told Virginia she had been the best part of his life, and that he truly valued the time they shared. Moments later, Harley suddenly arrived on his motorcycle and said it was time to finish what they started and get justice for their fallen friends. Together, they began planning their next move against Alexander. Harley reactivated the tracking device hidden inside the coin to lure Alexander to the old airplane graveyard. When Alexander and his crew arrived, they found the briefcase that had once held the ransom money. But this time, it contained only the glowing coin, a clear message that Harley knew about the tracker. Moments later, Alexander spotted Harley and Marlboro nearby, and a shootout erupted. Marlboro, using his sharp shooting skills, quickly took down one of Alexander's men with a clean shot to the head. Meanwhile, Harley fired wildly, struggling to aim properly. As the gunfight raged on, Marlboro took down another of Alexander's men, while Harley fumbled to reload his weapon. Things took a turn for the worse when Alexander shot Marlboro in the arm, separating the two. He then captured Marlboro and demanded to know where the money was. Marlboro refused to answer and even spat in Alexander's face, prepared to die. At that moment, Harley appeared, aiming a pistol at Alexander and ordering him to release Marlboro. But with Marlboro still held hostage, Harley took a shot at Alexander and missed, accidentally hitting Marlboro in the arm. Knowing Harley was a terrible shot, Alexander mocked him. Frustrated, Marlboro shouted at Harley to just shoot. Feeling cornered and under pressure, Harley finally took a deep breath, focused, and fired a perfect shot, hitting Alexander. Working together, Harley and Marlboro brought him down, ending the deadly pursuit once and for all. Afterward, they bribed Alexander's helicopter pilot and persuaded him to fly them straight to Chance Wilder's office. During the flight, the pilot casually mentioned that Alexander and his crew had been wearing bulletproof vests imported from Japan. Meanwhile, in a high-rise office building, Wilder was meeting with Japanese investors when he noticed his helicopter landing and saw Harley and Marlboro stepping out. They stormed into the meeting, tossed the ransom money onto the table, and demanded that Wilder revise the lease to save the Rockends Roll Bar and Grill. But Wilder remained indifferent, completely unfazed by their demands. Wilder mocked them, proudly boasting about the massive profits he was making by running a drug operation through the bank. Pushed to his limit, Harley snapped and urged Marlboro to shoot him. But Marlboro refused. He had one rule: never shoot an unarmed man. Moments later, Wilder's armed guards burst into the room. Just then, the pilot they had bribed arrived in the helicopter and opened fire through the window, swiftly taking down all of Wilder's men. In a final burst of rage, Wilder hurled one last insult, this time aimed at Marlboro's late father. It was the breaking point. Marlboro lunged at him, landing a series of punches that drove Wilder backward toward a large window frame with no glass. In a desperate move, Wilder grabbed onto Marlboro's old cowboy boot just as Marlboro clung to a steel beam. Harley rushed in to help, but the boot slipped off, and Wilder plunged to his death. After the dust settled, Harley and Marlboro went their separate ways. They met one final time at a rodeo arena. Harley was leaving town for good, while Marlboro was chasing an old dream, returning to bull riding despite the injury that had once ended his career. With fierce determination, he faced a wild bull, ready to prove he still had what it takes. Meanwhile, Harley rode off on his motorcycle, finally tasting freedom. As he reached the open road, he noticed a woman hitchhiking by the roadside.
Where you heading?
Without a second thought, he pulled over and offered her a ride. The two took off together, disappearing into the horizon, ready to face whatever came their way. And the moral of the story? Never trust a glowing coin. It's just a flashy little snitch in disguise.